The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. This is Bob Hollis with Mobius Intelligent Systems here on behalf of California Capital tonight. It's a pleasure to be here with you again this week. Just a few quick housekeeping things. One, I want to go over how to use the webinar system for those of you who may not have been with us last week. And we'll be taking a break halfway through for about 5 minutes for any of you who are curious about that. And if you do happen to miss any of the webinar, we are storing the recordings on a website, and I'll show you where that is before the end of the webinar today. That's on the course resources website. So first, just a quick a few instructions on how to use the webinar system. The system holds up to 1,000 people, and we have 127 registered. So everybody is mute by default when they come in. However, I encourage questions. So on your webinar panel, you'll see a little flyout tab. If your panel seems to have disappeared or if it's getting in your way, you can click the tab here to move that in or out, open or close the panel. But the most important part is this area for questions. So if anything comes to mind while we're working on the process today and looking at the site, feel free to enter your question there. And I will monitor the questions and try to get back to everybody as soon as it's appropriate. And also leave a little time at the end for questions that we might not cover during our scheduled time. And if by chance we don't get to all of them, I'm going to be starting an FAQ section on the class website. And I can add questions there, and I'll make sure that I get back to everybody. So that more or less covers it for the orientation. Just again, post any questions you have, and we'll cover them as we go. All right, so first, let me thank California Capital again for hosting and bringing us all together here. I've been teaching these classes for about 3 years now, and this is the first time we've done one as a webinar series instead of an in-person class, just because room capacity is about 30 over there, and obviously we have 127 signed up now. So this works a lot better for everybody. And it saves me from creating greenhouse gases, and I live up in the mountains, so it's a bit of a drive, but I'm really glad that we can still all get together online. And I know tonight we've got a Warriors game we're competing with, so I understand if some people couldn't make it this evening. But it is a pretty it's pretty casual from my perspective. I'll show you where the recordings are. A few people have informed me that they can't attend live, but that they are going through the class, they've registered, and they'll be watching the recordings and following along there. And that's perfectly fine. This is all for you, so use it however you like. We have no formal rules. My only request is that you have fun and take risks, because you can learn a lot, and it's not going to, no matter what you do on the website, you can't cause any harm. So it's a great learning environment, sandbox, call it what you like. So first, just a minute or two about California Capital. For any of you who might be attending your first session through California Capital, I met them again a few years back at a conference, and they asked if I was willing to or interested in participating in something like this. And when I found out what they were all about, I certainly was. They are different than most lending organizations. They're really about serving community and helping small businesses get off the ground. So be sure to visit their website, cacapital.org, which I'm now the administrator. Recently they became a client as well as a friend. And take a look at what they've got here to offer. Some great small business loan opportunities and information, business assistance of different types, information on government contracting, and of course workshops and events like the one we're attending now. So visit their website, and one of the most important things that I request is that as part of this program, they get funded by the SBA. I don't charge anything. All my time is volunteer and all free, but I like the fact that they get some support because of the work I do. So I turn in my time to them, and they also turn in evaluation forms on this program to the SBA to get matching funding. So I'm going to show you where this form is to download, but I would ask if you need to leave early or something like that, please make sure that you download this form. It's a fillable PDF. So I'll show you where to download it on our site. Then you can come in and fill in whatever is appropriate for each one of the sections. It only takes maybe 5 minutes to do. And then mail these, send through email to Sophia Kanan, and I'll provide her address as well. And so that's the most important takeaway if you have to leave early, is to take care of that. So today our overall topic is plugins. I want to go through our class website first, so show everybody where the resources are in case you've not been there before, or in case you've not been able to find anything. I've made some changes since last week, so you'll be able to find a lot more resources here, and I'm trying to put everything in one place to keep it simple for people. So let's take a look at what we've got here. When you first come in, as a reminder, the site URL is bakersfieldrecycles.com, and I'm going to send that out in a chat to everybody right now. Okay, so if you want to, you can pop open the link that I just sent you via chat and then bookmark that so that it's easy for you to find in the future. That's where all the course resources are, and that's where, if you haven't created your own student website yet, you can do so there. And that's where we're at now. So there's bakersfieldrecycles.com, and here I am just on the class homepage. And as you see, you can click right here to create your own site. If you forget your password, it's easy to retrieve it. You don't need to email me and request that I reset it for you. You can go to the login page, and you'll see that there's going to be a link to request a password reset. And it'll send the password reset button or link to whatever email address you use to register. If you try to register and it tells you that your email address is already being used, that probably means that you've been in the class before and that you've already created a site in one of our past classes. If so, it's still there. So I've left sites in place for students that have participated in the past but wanted to keep on working, so you don't need to start from scratch. So if you just go to the URL that you created, you'll be able to log in again or reset your password if you need to. I've also added the class schedule here, and just so you know, I'm clicking through tabs rather than pages. I preload everything just in case we have bandwidth issues to keep things moving forward smoothly. And so on the second tab here, class schedule, this is what we're looking at. And I see an error here from a design perspective, and there are a lot of things I've kind of left undone so we can do them together at the appropriate part of the class. But ideally what you'd have, since we're here on class schedule, this should stay green as an indicator to let us know what page we're on. So we'll fix that when we get to our design section. So, and then these for our social media section. So our class schedule is here. If you're ever wondering what we're covering in different sessions, that's all available along with bio. And LinkedIn, I'll get back to you when we talk design about why that's crossed out, and I'll probably fix it by then, but we'll talk about it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like to, so we can stay connected outside of the class. So the class description is here. You can also get to it by clicking here for the course schedule. Session recordings. So the video from last week is right here. So just come into the session recordings page, and here's what you've got from last week. You can see series session 1 of 8 for May 9th. Oh, let me see here. Okay. Somebody said no sound. Are others hearing me? Could somebody please maybe just comment in a question box whether or not you can hear me? Okay, I'm getting comments that people can hear me. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So the one person who can't hear me, I suggest checking your microphone settings. And my page may have been on pause for a moment, so I'm going to just quickly jump back to what I covered here. One was the California Capital page. So that's cacapital.org. You can review their services there. And here is our class page that I've been going through. So our home page right here, to click to get your student site. And you can also then visit the class schedule here. And this is what I was talking about when I said, you can see how it's highlighted when I hover. We should change that so that it stays highlighted to indicate what page I'm on when I'm visiting content. And we'll take care of that during our design session. So if you'd like to see what we'll be covering in any different sessions, you can review here. And then we've got our are videos, and those are on their session recordings. So what you're seeing here is the recording from last week's session, 1 of 8 on May 9th. And then I added some of the stuff that I'd had on another site before so that we can put it on for the, so you wouldn't have to go to 2 different sites. We'll have everything right here. This is a presentation that I did at the Tech Industry Day on how to work with local governments. And so these were some resources that I referred to in the presentation. Here is my class on open source software, another one on cybersecurity and online privacy with some links and content to things that I reviewed in that class. And then the webinar series, the past version, is right here. This is from last year, May 19th to July 20th. We only had 6 sessions there, but those recordings are available. So if you need to jump ahead and you want to start looking at theme design or something like that, feel free to take a look at those from last year. And of course, we'll be recording updates this year. A lot has changed and a lot more tools are available. And so we'll be going through some of those too. So again, these are all the resources, and after tonight's class, I'll be converting it to an MP4 and adding that here as well. Though it'll probably take a couple days due to some other things I have due for tomorrow. Newsletter archives. So that's another tab here. I sent 1 newsletter so far. I added everybody from the class to the newsletter. If you have friends or anybody else who's interested, I'm fine with whoever feels like signing up. You can add your name and email address here and submit. That will add you to the class newsletter. And that's where I'm sending out announcements and things of that nature as well. So those will be archived here as they go out. And we'll be covering newsletters in our session on social media and outreach, social media integration and outreach. There's a pretty cool system I can show you that makes it all very efficient, and we'll be archiving them here. So if you come to into the class website and you didn't receive the last one, you can take a look at these and you'll be able to get up to speed on what's going on. Then I also created a blog, and that will show all of the most recent posts to the website. So as announcements come out, they'll go into a newsletter automatically. They'll also post as a blog. And if we had social media accounts set up, they would also go to all of our social media accounts. So one of the systems I'll be showing you how to create in the session on social media integration and outreach is a system where you could, even from your phone or from a website, from a browser, you can basically push one button, make a couple of selections, and hit send or publish. And that will populate your website as a blog. It'll populate a newsletter and automatically format, and it will populate up to dozens and dozens and dozens of social media channels. So you'll be able to do a lot with that, and very efficiently. And that pretty much covers the main menu items here. This is the link for creating a student site. So for any of you who weren't here last week, I'll just repeat that you can create a site for this class on this platform, which is identical to the platform used by WordPress.com, which we'll go through in a minute and talk about the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. But when you come into the site and click create a student site, it'll bring you to a form that looks like this. You'll add what you want your domain to be here. So, you could just say demo site. Now, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm already logged in as an administrator and I've got a site. So you won't see this message when you log in. But you can add whatever you want it to be, and you can call it class site or, grapes and bananas, whatever you want it to be, and put what you want the site title to be. Complete a basic math captcha there and click the create site button. And that will allow you to create a site on the platform, and you'll receive an email message with all of your login information to complete that process. The next item we're showing here, and this is one very relevant to what we're doing today, so I'm going to send this link out right now as well, so that if any of you have plugins or themes that you'd like to request, you can complete that form, and that form will submit to me a list of any of the things you'd like to add. So tonight we're going to be going through the plugins and some of the plugins in WordPress and talking about how to identify them and what goes here. But basically just your first name, last name, email, And if you've set a website up, please put the URL for that, either for the website that you're working on your own or for the class website, whichever you might have. Then here under the request fields, put in the name of the plugin and then a link to the plugin. And I'll show you where to get those when we're looking at the plugins. If you've got more than one, just click the little plus sign in the circle here, and you can add as many as you need. And try to keep it under 10 or 15. Chances are I probably have something in already to cover what you want to do. And the same with themes, which I'll show you an introduction to tonight, just in terms of finding a theme that you might want to use on your website. So you'll fill in the plugin name, the plugin link, theme name, theme link for anything that you want to do. Comments on the type of business that you are operating, so that we could, let me see here. We put an entire name or just chosen website name, just the chosen website name. And somebody said when I created a site, it gave it my last name instead of the name I gave it. Is that how it works? I'll take a look at that specifically and see what went on. It might do that, but you can still adjust the title. And as we dig in, I'll show you how to customize all of those things. So anyway, this is where you can put in your plugin or theme request and then hit submit, and that will come into me and I'll take care of it for you. All right. So the other thing I talked about was the SBA Training Evaluation form. That's right here. And here are the instructions for where to send it. So you can open up the form or download it. It's a fillable PDF. Complete the form and save it so that you make sure you don't lose your changes. And then email that to Sophia Canon at scanon@capital.org. And that's after each session, not after all 8. And again, they get credit from the SBA for these. So I intended to create an online form, but you'll see that that's a fillable form that gets scanned. And so I didn't want things might not match their scanning machine if we didn't use the exact one. Let's see, somebody asked about what email address password confirmations come from. Now, they'll probably come from info@bakersfieldrecycles.com. So that's what I would do a search on. Okay, so that covers everything there. Again, click here and that will open up this form. You can just download that and complete it offline and send that back in. So, and then here's a question. If we have an active website now, do we need those passwords? Yes, you should. You don't need them for today, but you'll need them to log in and continue doing your work. So whether it's your own website or one you're doing for the class, then you should be able to log into it. But you set those passwords yourself when you create the site. And you can reset them if you need to from the Lost My Password box option that you'll see on the login page. All right, so here we are now. This is what the back end of a site looks like. So when we log in as an admin, I'm seeing things that you wouldn't see because it's a network site. So this is what it looks like for me coming in as the network administrator, and it's a little bit different than what you would see on your site, because on a multi-site you're unable to control your own plugins. But when you create your own WordPress site outside of this system, then you will be the administrator and you will be able to add your own plugins as you go. And that's why for now I've asked you to just fill out a form and I'll add them, so they'll be available to you without you needing to add them yourself. And let's see, I've got a question here. Is plugin name for the class something we come up with? And no, it's not. I'll show you what plugins are right in just a minute here. That's where we're going to be spending most of our time this evening. But I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the resources we have on our page. And then we'll come back to that form, and I'll even show you how to specifically complete that. All right, and so this is what it'll look like on your site. So if you create a site as a student on this system, when you come in, you'll see that it's your site here. And these are the plugins that you'll see if you go to the plugin section. When you first come in, you'll be on your dashboard. And there are a lot of things you can do here, such as creating posts, creating pages. And these would be just like creating a page in a Microsoft Word document or something like that. And what we're going to be focused on are the plugins, but I want to give you a general feel for the background. So feel free to come in anytime to your site once you've started it and start creating pages. So if you're in pages, this is what it'll look like when you first log in. Then you can go down here to pages and add new. And you'll see how easy it is. It's just like a WordPress page. So you could put in a title here. I'm going to call this one demo page. And then you can put in any texture here. And I'm just going to randomly hit some keys. And then you can edit your text any way that you like too. If you need to bold it or something like that, you can add headers. And the typical standard is headers 1 through 6, and they change in size from 1 is your largest header, or heading, I'm sorry, and that's what Google will look for in search engines. They're going to pick up anything that's a heading 1 or a heading 2, and so you want to make sure that you pay attention to that when you're creating things that you want Google to pick up on. And we'll be talking about search engine optimization in another one of the section as well. So we'll get into that a lot more deeply. All right, thank you for the comment. I see somebody saying here that my words are going faster than the pages are changing. So I will slow down a bit. That's due to just internet lag, but I appreciate the heads up. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so we should be caught up now, and I'm looking at an audience view, so I can see that we're pretty close here. All right, so that's how you would start a page, and then over here on the right-hand side, you'll see a lot of different options, and you can go through those options and see what you can do over there. They're pretty straightforward. And when you're ready, you'll want to publish the page. Then here you can do a lot of different things, including setting whether or not it's a draft. You can schedule it to post later. So rather than publish immediately, you can schedule it to go out at a different time. There are a lot of different options for what you can do there, including these are parent pages if you want to, but those aren't really that important anymore with the latest version of WordPress. And you can set your templates here, but we'll talk more about that when we get into theme design. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and publish. So I came in, I went to pages. Here I added new, created a title, put some random text in there. And you can also add images. So I could say add media and choose from my media library. I'll just choose a generic logo here. And I can add that in, and there are a lot of options over here for what you want to do with that. I'll go ahead and align that left to WordPress right, or to WordWrap right. And I'm going to insert it into the page. If I didn't have an image available, or the image I wanted to use wasn't in the library already, I can choose Upload Files and select a file from my computer. But for now, I'll just go ahead and use this as our demo. And you can see that added it in here. And since I aligned it left, it's word wrapping right. I could also center it to put it above, or word wrap, align it right to word wrap left. But I'll leave it here for our demo. And then go ahead and publish. Now, a lot of people think as soon as they create a page and publish, it'll automatically show up on the menu. And that it won't, though. What you need to do then is add it to the menu if you want it to be on the menu. So to do that, you would come down here to Appearance and Menus. And you can see what our menu looks like here. Now I'm going to select Demo Page, Add to Menu. And you can drag that around anywhere that you like. So I'll just put it in front of our home page for now. I'm going to take it down anyway. And so just as an example of sliding it around, and then Save Menu. And now if I were to come back out to our home page, which I think is here, you'll see that it doesn't exist now. If I refresh, there's demo page. And if I click the menu item, there's the information we just added with the demo page title. Okay, so that's how you create a page and how you add it to the menu. You can also, let me get back to where we were. If I wanted to have it as a sub item, I can just move it and slide it in a little. So if I slide it in and save again, and then I'll come back here to the home page. Where were we? Right there. And well, I'll just click here to refresh. And now you can see it's a drop down under that menu item. Okay, so I'm going to remove that for now. To do that, just remove and save menu. So if you wanted to get started saving pages, creating pages for the main part of your website and creating menus, that's how you would do that. So to create a menu, you come in, create a new menu, give it a name, save it, then add the pages that you like, and those will become your main menu items. And then check here too to make sure you display it in the menu widget position. All right. And now somebody asked here, how do you get to the dashboard? So I don't expect you to be trying to do this while I'm doing it, because it would be hard to both watch and do at the same time. But this is showing you how to do it on yours. To get to the dashboard, as soon as you log in, that's where you would be. So in my case here, the login is just bakersfieldrecycles.com, and then there's a login link, Mobius, and it's here. I'll just show you what it is. Now it's gonna be slightly different for your site. This is obviously each person is going to have a different login link specifically. For me, it looks like this. So it just took me in because I was already logged in. But I'll make sure that I add those links to the website so that you're at least the format for the link, so that you know how to get there. All right, and let's see. That's how you get to the dashboard. So as soon as you log in as an administrator, you're going to see this black bar appear up at the top, and right below the name of your site, you can click dashboard, or it'll take you right to the dashboard, which would look like this. So that's the first thing you'll see when you log in. And pages are not the same as tabs. That's another question that just came in. Pages are pages of content that in this case are aligned with menu items, but they are not what I would call tabs. Right now when I talk about tabs, I'm looking at tabs on my browser. So up at the top of my screen there, those are just browser tabs that I've pre-opened to save some load time because of internet lagging. So that's what we're talking about with tabs. Pages are the different pages of content that I have linked through the menu system here. So that's what that is. Okay, so today though, the most important thing we're talking about are plugins. And so we'll step back for a minute and talk about why again we're working with WordPress. This is built with, there we go, so I see the graph has come up. So built with is a platform that tracks usage of just about everything on the internet. And if you take a look here, you'll see that for content management systems, for the top 1 million sites on the internet, WordPress has 53% of them. Some people have asked about Drupal and Joomla in our last session. You'll see that Drupal has 5% and Joomla is 3%. And that's of the top 1 million sites. And in the past, people have said things like, well, WordPress is fine for an entry-level site, but it's not good enough for a site that's really top tier. Well, if you look at the top 100,000 sites, you'll see that WordPress still dominates, 42% versus 8% for Drupal and 2% for Joomla. In the top 10,000 sites, you'll see WordPress still 37%, more than a third of all content management systems on the web. In the top 10,000 sites are WordPress, with 9% for Drupal. And Joomla, I can't even tell, but it's not very much. And that's what I meant when people were asking me about a comparison between Drupal and Joomla and WordPress in our last session. And it's not about a popularity contest. If Drupal or Joomla could do things WordPress couldn't, then they would be the appropriate tool to use in that circumstance. But the reason it matters that so many people are using WordPress and why that should have an impact on your decision for a platform is that this is where all the developers go. So if this is what everybody's using, you're going to get far more development there and better development and have a lot more options for plugins. And let's talk about that now. So if you come to WordPress.org, this is then I should add this to our site. You know what? I'll add the plugin link to our site, and I'll do that live so that you can see how to do it while we do it. So what we're looking at here is the primary WordPress site. And this is where you would come to download WordPress if you were installing it from scratch on your server. But more importantly for us today, this is where we're going to look at plugins, and I'll show you themes, but we're going to be focused on plugins today. And so first I'm going to talk a little bit about WordPress.org, which is where we're at now, versus WordPress.com, because we had questions about that in the last session as well. WordPress.org is the platform where you have your own hosting service. So you might be hosted through GoDaddy or through any place else, Green Geeks or HostGator, or there's a bunch of them out there. And so if you have your own hosting, then this is where you would come and install your files and set up your MySQL database and install WordPress and run it yourself. And that's the type of system we have set up that I have done for you, except that we're using what's called a multi-site platform, which is what WordPress.com is. Now, WordPress.com is a multi-site running on WordPress, but you pay for hosting. So they take care of all of your hosting, but the other thing that happens is they control a lot of your site. And so they determine what plugins you can use and what themes you can use based on what they make available. So you can see here what they offer. So you can get a free version with some very basic things. And your site, though, is going to be, say, WordPress.com / my website, something like that. If you go all the way up to the business package, then it's similar to what we're going to have available, but for a lot lower cost than $25 a month. You can get hosting for even a few dollars a month in some cases, depending on how robust your hosting needs to be, and then put WordPress in and use all these plugins at no cost. Well, different plugins. Apparently they have their own that they offer just through this platform, but you'll see that that's not much of a limitation when we look at what's available. So we have a version of this set up as our class site in this format, only I'm not charging anything. We're just using it as our sandbox site. Again, back to WordPress.org, this is where we'll be focusing, but I wanted to explain the difference between the two. This is where you would come for plugins. So go to WordPress.org, plugins, and I'd suggest that everybody set up their own account here. It's free, and you'll see that I'm logged in here as Bob Hollis. And since I've logged in and I have my own account, it allows me to save plugins as favorites. So if I'm looking at something out here and I decide that it's really cool, I'm just going to randomly grab BBPress here and take a look at it. I can say, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. I'm going to save it as a favorite. Now I can also download the code and add it as a plugin that way, but because I have it saved as a favorite, I can also do it right through the backend of WordPress without needing to upload the file from my own site folder. And I'll show you what that means in a minute here when we go through an example. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I said that I'll add this link to our site. So I'll keep this open, and we'll do that when we go look at the back end of our site again. I'm just copying the link from here, and we'll add that to our class resources page. Well, let's talk again about what links would look like. So if I were filling out a form, and let's say that I wanted WP Supercache, or we'll stick with BBPress. So I can open that up, and this would be the link, and this would be the name. So the name is BBPress, and the link is right here. And I just had a question. Do you create account on WordPress.com or WordPress.org? Neither one. You create the account on Bakersfieldrecycles.com. This is a version of this is a WordPress multi-site that every student can create a site on. And it's exactly like WordPress.com in that it's a multi-site installation that people can come and create sites on. The difference is they're charging you, and you might want to use this at some point, but this is what they charge. We're using their software on our own server so that there is no charge for any students for that reason. Okay, I hope that answers the question. And somebody asked about what does backend of the site refer to. The front end is when you're looking at any of the pages out here. The back end is when you're on the dashboard. So like this would be the back end. So when you're on your dashboard working at anything that the public doesn't see, that's the back end of the site. The front end is anything the public would see. But you'll notice too that when you're on the front end, if you're logged in as your administrator, you can edit your own page. So if we were here on homepage, for example, and I wanted to edit this page and I'm looking at it from the front, as long as I'm logged in, I can click edit page right here or edit this right here. And what it's going to do is take me to a backend administrator view where I can come in and type anything that I want here or add any new images or links, and then click update over here on the right, and that would update that page for me, and then I would go back to view page, and it would show me those changes. So you can edit from the front end as an administrator or from the back end on your dashboard, going down to pages and selecting your page from here and edit it the same way. All right, so let's see, where were we? So that's so when we talk about plugins, this is the platform where you can go and find any plugins that you like. And if we were filling out the form, I would, since we're here on BBPress, I would grab that link here. And that's what would go in. Let's find our, right here. Here we go. So the plugin link would go here, plugin name here, and that's all I'd need to know. And then put in your name, your email. Website's optional in case you can't remember it or don't have it ready. And the same thing with themes, which I'll show you in a minute. So any things that you request so that you can play with them on your site during the class, just add them to these fields and submit, and let me know what kind of business you're working in so I have an idea of what else might interest you. And then we'll be able to add any features that you like. So here's a basic question. What is the purpose of a plugin? So what's really cool about this, and one of the reasons that you'll see people pay so much for websites, and I've never really understood some of the things that people pay for, to be honest. I operate a little differently. When I started this, I was just doing it for free for nonprofits as kind of a retirement activity at age 35, believe it or not. And so I started doing it for a bunch of different boards that I served on, and I would see these quotes come in for $20 or $30 or $40,000, and I'd look at them and say, "This is crazy. I could build this website by myself while I'm watching a football game on Sunday." And so that's what I started doing. I started building one website every week while I watched football games for nonprofits, and was saving them $20,000 to $30,000 from the quotes that they were getting, and providing even better sites that went beyond the quotes and beyond the proposals. And the thing is with plugins is you don't have to do all that coding yourself. So a plugin is what gives WordPress features. So when you first set up WordPress, you've got a basic platform, and then you want to add features to it. And so those are some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. You can see here you can extend your WordPress experience with 55,000 plus plugins. So each one of those plugins that we're talking about serve a function in the website. and they allow you to add features without needing to know how to code for anything. And even if you need code for something, I'll show you how to create your own HTML code without knowing anything about HTML. So we'll do that when we look at a page again. So for now, take a look at these and think about them all as features. So if you come to this page, and I'm logged in here, so it's going to show a lot, but here are some featured plugins, and you can see what they do. They'll describe them. This one happens to be a forum software. This is caching software. This one prevents spam. Popular plugins. Here's one for creating forms. Here's Yoast SEO, which stands for Search Engine Optimization. And I'm going to show you how to use that as well, so that you'll see how you can do your own search engine optimization and get your site up high in the rankings. Beta plugins that aren't quite done. And down here are things that I might have saved as favorites. So I can come down here and see all. And you know, it's going to have whatever I've saved there as a favorite. But let's say I'm interested in something specific. So a lot of people are interested in e-commerce. So I can just do a search on plugins for e-commerce. And you can see all of these things that it brought up. And what I'll suggest right now, let's see, I see one question for stopping spam. We'll address that one. And what I'd suggest also right now, in your question box, just type in the name of any feature that you would like to see on a website. So there are things like you can integrate with Google Calendars, you can have maps, you can have videos, you can have photo galleries, slideshows, anything else, any feature that you have ever seen on any website anywhere, we can add to WordPress, and we can do it through plugins. So if you have something in mind for your site, I know one of our past classes, one of the people had a real estate business, property management, so they wanted to see plugins for real estate. Another one was a private chef, and she wanted to see how things could work for her, so we put in a recipe plugin. Others wanted maps of different locations, so we put in a mapping plugin. Okay, so I see some things coming in here, and I'll address the questions and items one at a time as we're coming to them right now. So one is, any recommendations for stopping spam? Sure, and it depends on where the spam is coming from. If we're talking about it from the perspective of a website, there are a lot of different things you can do. A Kismet, I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong quite a bit. A Kismet, which happened to be one of the sites that they showed here under, let's see, well, that was under popular sites. So if I just go back here to plugins, you'll see a Kismet. That happens to come in pre-installed with WordPress. It's really good with spam. You can see it's got 5 stars. There are other things, though, to stop hack bots and things of that along those lines. And we can talk about those as we start adding plugins. I've covered all that stuff for our sites because I teach classes on cybersecurity and online privacy as well, so it's important to me, and I've already covered that for our sites. But for any individual sites, we can talk about that for sure. Since this is open source, how is security handled for plugins? Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people hear open source and think, uh-oh, open source can't be trusted. It's actually the exact opposite. What's nice about open source is it means you're allowed to see the code. And if any developer is allowed to see the code, if there's a problem in the code, it's going to be discovered right away. And you can also look at ratings. Now, people write code to the best of their ability, and hopefully they're keeping security in mind when they do that, but there are always vulnerabilities. I'll start right now by saying no site anywhere is 100% hack-proof. And the first person I heard say that was the director of NSA cybersecurity, talking about their own website that got hacked. And so if the NSA cybersecurity site can get hacked, any site can get hacked. But it's kind of like a house. You know, any house could be broken into no matter what if somebody tried hard enough, put in enough time and resources. But you still want to lock your doors and windows and at least prevent the most common types of break-ins. And that's what we do with websites. So I've already taken care of all that for our website. but we'll talk more about security also in a future session for anybody who has specific questions on that. So open source software in general is more secure than closed source or the proprietary software because you're allowed to see the code. And if you can see the code, developers will immediately see vulnerabilities, and typically they report those, or hackers or white hat hackers, which I've been called at times, will find vulnerabilities and report them to the developer to be fixed. A plugin to protect content. I'm not sure specifically what you mean to protect content. If you're talking about putting something behind, say, a paywall or making it accessible only to specific people, then definitely. There are a lot of different ways you can do that, either through a membership site, so you can add something called Paid Memberships Pro, which is free for the basic version. A lot of plugins are free for the basic version, and then they charge you more if you want to go further and add on additional features. So with something like Paid Membership Pro, you can create membership levels, and you can put a price associated with each membership level. And when people log in, they'll only have access to content that's assigned to their membership level or below. And that's how you can control content that way. You can also put individual passwords on any page and share that password among a bunch of people if you want to make it a little bit easier. Is there a plugin for videos with closed captioning? Yes. In fact, what I would typically do, depending on the video, you want to build the closed captioning into the video. And you could do that and say host it on WordPress and then put a YouTube, which YouTube, by the way, is the second most used search engine behind Google. And so YouTube is used quite a bit, and it's a good place to put your videos if you want to share them. If it's a private video, like part of a course, then you'd want to host it specifically on your site. But you build the closed captioning into the video before you upload it. List of recommendations for standard plugins most websites use. Those are built into our website right now. So if you take a look at the plugins that you'll have available on your site, you'll see the most common, and those for almost every feature out there. And there are a few that I've added at request that might not be that common for most people, such as recipe plugins and real estate plugins. But the other most common plugins used on almost every website are also already there. A bookkeeping plugin. I'm not sure about that. I haven't looked into bookkeeping plugins. So let's just do a live experiment and see what happens here. So let's just see bookkeeping. Whoops. There you have it. So ask and you shall receive. I'm not seeing a lot of comments here or a lot of options. And this one has fewer than 10 active installations and no reviews. So you'd be taking a risk looking at that, but why not? That doesn't mean that it's not workable. In terms of bookkeeping, I don't know how much you'd want to keep online. If you were really serious, like doing, say, professional bookkeeping work for clients and that sort of thing, I would probably go with QuickBooks Online and have client access and or your only access. If you're an accountant, people can share QuickBooks files with you, but that might be a better way to do it. And you do have to pay special attention to security when you're hosting information or keeping information on clients that's that sensitive and important. So I might rely on more robust third-party apps for that, such as QuickBooks. And you can create general spreadsheets even if you wanted to, and use things like that and integrate them into the site. Here's another one, baseball, family, and mental health. That sounds more like subject matter than functions. So if you said, for example, I want to be able to keep a roster of baseball players by team or an event schedule for games, something like that, then there are definitely plugins to do all of those things and just customize them for a baseball application. Family, yes, I believe there are family tree makers, that sort of thing. So if you want to do genealogy or something like that, there are plenty available. And mental health, again, I would say there are plugins for different features if you needed to track things, but I'm guessing maybe well, I don't know what you'd be providing there, if it's general resources or contact information or what it might be, but we should be able to provide the functions you need for a mental health site. Here's one, or a plugin for a group as an alternative to Facebook where people can post, comment. Yes, absolutely. And let's see, educational course that is purchased, either webinar or download manual, go through course, take test, give instant pass or fail, then issue certificate. And absolutely, yes. In fact, I've created sites like that. I'm a business partner in a site called greeneducation.us. Those sites in general are called learning management systems, and LMS for short. And there are numerous options for learning management systems here. Just to give you an idea, I'll just type in here. We'll just type online learning in our plugin search and see what comes up. So here are a bunch of them. The one I'm using now is WordPress, but there are others that they're just numerous out there. Actually, I've used this on one site, and I've used one called Learn Dash that was more advanced on another site, but it's a pro plugin that costs money. Here's one. It's only got 4 reviews, though. I tend to stay away from that. Well, it's risky. You can test it out. It's just newer. I always want to look for one that's been tested with the latest version of WordPress and that can be used, for what I want to use it for. It's got good reviews overall. And then I read more deeply into it before I install it. But I'll install this one just for the heck of it before we close off here today. And as an alternative to Facebook, there's one called BuddyPress that's really cool. That's exactly that. So if you want to create your own Facebook environment without the spying and selling of your data and all of that sort of thing, then you have BuddyPress here. And BuddyPress is one of those things that's so popular that there are a lot more add-ons for it created by other third-party developers. So you can see under BuddyPress, there are a bunch of them here. And I mentioned LearnDash as my LMS. BuddyPress for LearnDash allows you to create forums for your students to participate and discuss any type of course content. So you can see how this would take, I don't know, hundreds of hours at least to program. But most of them are free, and you can just add them instantly. So let's say we'll just go ahead and add BuddyPress right now for the heck of it. So if I go back here now here I have to go to the admin dashboard. So this is what you won't be able to see in this version of the site, but you would in a normal self-installed WordPress version of the site. Again, because you don't have access to plugins, but any plugin that I add, you have access to on your student site. So let's say I want to add BuddyPress. First, making sure it's not already there. Now I can click Add New. And you'll notice that I could go to favorites, and any favorites I already saved, if I'm logged in, will show in my account. In this case, BuddyPress already pops up right here because it's so popular. But normally I would just do a search right here on BuddyPress. It would pull it up, and then I can simply click Install Now. And what this is doing is installing it on the network system. And now if I click Network Activate, waiting for it to complete. There we go. Welcome to BuddyPress. So we just, in less than 30 seconds, installed a system that would basically duplicate WordPress. So you've got groups, you can have people that can contact each other, share images, connect to each other, update their profiles, just about everything that Facebook does, only within your own private environment that doesn't need to worry about advertising. Next question, is there a way to stop content copying? That's a little more difficult. I don't know if anybody could stop me from content copying if I really wanted to, simply by the fact that you can take a screenshot. And so, and then you can put it through like a scanner that would pull the words off. So for somebody who's savvy, anything that they see, they can copy. For example, you're not supposed to be able to download or copy, say, Netflix or Amazon videos. But since I have screen recording software that I use for creating tutorials, it'll record my system audio and any video that I show on my page or on my screen. So if I'm watching a basketball game or something else that's supposed to be proprietary, I can copy anything on my computer screen and record the video just like a VCR on a television or a camcorder or anything else. So that can be difficult. There are things you can do to prevent people from being able to right-click copy images, and you can of course put things behind passwords or paywalls. So there are things you can do to control, but I don't think there's any absolute way to 100% prevent that. Now, plugins needed here: slideshows, calendar, scheduling. Those are very common. We have several slideshows options already installed, and one that's pretty sophisticated that I'll be showing you more in the theme section. In fact, I created a whole second session on theming just to cover this really cool slideshow. And I'll show you what it is just so you can get an idea of, I may as well pull it up now. So these are the kind of sites you're going to be able to create. This is called Slider Revolution. And let's see, I'm going to go to examples. All right, so here's Slider Revolution examples, and you don't need to learn all this. It's already installed, and we're going to be covering how to use it in our session and on themes in the second half. But if you take a look at all the cool things these can do, these are all just slides, and they can do tons of different types of special features. Here's one that's pretty cool. For example, it's a 360 panorama. I just installed this one for a client the other day, and I'll wait for it to start moving. So it's a bit clunky because of going over the internet. I can see the audience view that's kind of chipping away there. It's really smooth on my end, but you can grab it and you can turn it with your mouse, and you can go up or down. Okay, so you can put images in. This is all just a slideshow. You can also create different types of templates that are what's called vertical parallax design, where things are scanning up, back and forth through layers. Here's an example. All right, so you can see how I can scroll down here and these different things all slide in. All this is a series of slides, and we'll be covering this in detail in our session on design in the second session. But just to cover the question, yes, we have plenty of slide options already in. Calendar and scheduling, there are plenty of options there, either standalone or integrating a Google Calendar. Are there plugins specific to government-focused contractor sites? Again, I would focus on one. If it's government-focused, I would make sure you've got top-notch security in, and you need to make sure you meet all regulations like ADA, which is Section 508, COPA, and now there's this new GDPR that's come into place, these new privacy regulations driven by the EU that U.S. sites need to comply with as well, that are higher standards than have ever faced U.S. sites before. And we'll be covering that in the theme section as well. So other than that, it would be, again, which function do you want to provide on that government-focused site? Obviously a contact page, maybe a page on generating quotes or something like that. Protecting images, copyrights, watermarking. In that case, what I would typically do is use Photoshop first and add my watermarks and then put them up that way. Again, take care of them before you upload them. When you say a plugin is risky, what does that mean? What I meant in that specific instance is it's so new. Since it only had 5 users and no reviews yet, you don't know if it's any good or not. So you might install it and spend a lot of time working on it and configuring it, and then when you go to launch, you'll find out that it fails for half the people or generates an error code. Normally, if you look at one that's more heavily used, you can read the reviews. And so, for example, here, you've got 375 reviews and 4.5 stars. That's pretty darn good. MailChimp for WordPress. This is where you can add a MailChimp subscription form to your WordPress site. And if somebody adds their name to that site, they get added to your MailChimp email list. So you can see here, that's 5 stars, 970 reviews. The plugin that we looked at previously had only, and this one has more than 1 million active installations and with the latest version of WordPress. So that one I would say is not very risky. The one that we looked at before that I said might be risky had no reviews and only, I forget, it was just a handful of active installations. So that's all I meant, is that it's not quite been reviewed by the community enough yet to know whether or not it's a pretty good program. Okay, email lists in another session. I'm wondering about MailChimp, how to integrate into website. Yes, we'll be covering that in our outreach session, and we're going to do some really amazing things, and you might want to even consider using a different platform, but it's up to you. I'll show you the options when we get there. One is called MailPoet, and that's a newsletter that, again, is completely free up to 2,000 subscribers, and you can do a lot with it right here. And this integrates right into WordPress, and you can set up automated newsletters. So every time you add a post to WordPress, it can populate a newsletter, and then it'll send that newsletter out either once a week, once a month, however often you like, and it'll format it and everything. So it saves you tons of time. You're pretty much automating your entire newsletter process. So we'll cover that. You can also integrate Constant Contact or MailChimp through plugins, and those will work right with your website as well, but they're not really WordPress based. This one's WordPress based, so it's seamlessly integrated, not just a subscription form that will add to your Constant Contact or MailChimp list. I already registered a student site on the Bakersfield, but when I click the link that you sent me on my site name on it, it goes to the home page. Home page does not have a sign. I'll take a look at that and get back to you after the session here. Can you explain CAPTCHA? Is this worthwhile? Boy, that's a broad question, and it really covers a lot of different things. With CAPTCHA specifically, what they mean is it's a Turing test. So it's a computer or person Turing test. I can't remember specifically what the acronym stands for, but that's where it came from, and it's supposed to be able to tell between a human and an automated bot type of thing. So a CAPTCHA can be photos, if you've run into something where it says select any box with a storefront, or select the boxes with a street sign. That's a type of CAPTCHA. But I find those to be a nuisance, and I've never understood why people would put millions of dollars sometimes into a user experience and trying to make sure there are no barriers between the user and the action you want them to take, which is often, say, a purchase. And so if that's the case, why do you want to have them jump through hoops and make it difficult? Which often those CAPTCHAs are so frustrating, I leave a site because I'm so tired of filling them out. I never go any further. So when I use a CAPTCHA, I use one that's a math CAPTCHA. So it'll say something like, what is 1 plus 3, or what is 3 times 6, or something like that. And that way you don't have to figure out, screwy little crooked letters to read a word, or whether or not the corner of a street sign counts as a street sign. Does the pole of a street sign count? Is a gas station with a fast food restaurant considered a storefront? And those sorts of things. And so that's what I would suggest as a CAPTCHA is a math CAPTCHA, and I'll show you one of those as well. All right, let's see. Where's the best place to get free content, pictures or music or videos? There are a few places. You can go to WikiCommons, and WikiCommons has a lot of things that work under the general public license, and I should know that URL, but I'm just going to do it this way. WikiCommons images and public domain images, they're going to be pretty much the same. So if you go to WikiCommons and images, whoops, that's an ad. I don't want to click on the ad. This is Adobe, that's not free. If you go to WikiCommons images, you can see all the different options here, or you can do searches for images. There's also Google Images, and now a lot of them are totally free for public use. You'll have to look at each one and see what the licensing is for those. The majority of them are going to be GPL. So I'll just randomly pick something here and see if it gives us the licensing information. So you can go down here, here's the image, And here's where you can view the license and see if it's free to use, or click more details. I think that also gives more information. So here's what it has. Does not have sufficient information on copyright status. So somebody might not have included that information when they did that. But a lot of times you'll see that it's GPL, which is general public use. And if that's the case, then you can use it, and it'll tell you what you can use it for. I'm just randomly picking some things here, so let's see what this one is. Oh, that looks like it's out of Russia. And here, if you want to use it on the web, use it on Wiki, email a link, information about reusing. So that's where you would get all of that information. Permission granted to copy, distribute, or modify this document under the GNU Free Documentation License from the Free Software Foundation. So there you have it. So that's the kind of thing you can do to find images. And then besides that, you can also use Google Images. And you'll notice I use DuckDuckGo. I recommend DuckDuckGo or StartPage as a search engine to prevent being spied upon. But let's look at Google Images. And again, here's images.google.com. Same sort of thing. We can do a search. I'll just do a quick search on horse. Here are horse images. And so I can say, let's look at this one. All right, images may be subject to copyright. And again, typically it will tell you. So if I say I want to check out this image, this one looks like it came from a commercial site. But the basic principle is the same. You look through the images and see which are GPU, or General Public License, GPL, and you can determine from there whether or not you'd be allowed to use it on a site. All right. So let me go back here. I lost the questions panel, but I'll be able to pull that back up here in a minute. Okay, view and questions. For some reason my questions panel has vanished, but oh, here we go. It's just redocked. All right, so that's where I would go for content, images, music, videos. You can also, for videos, you can use YouTube videos within the YouTube licensing parameters, which are often free. And by putting a link to the YouTube video in your site, it'll show a video on WordPress. There are also things you can use, which I'll show when we do our social media section, where you can create a video gallery that works like a type of theater gallery. Here's the next question. I have an online scheduler, and I think I have the code API. Can I add that? If you have the code, it's probably a script that you would copy and paste into a page that creates an interface between your site and the database in your scheduling book. And so that would be able to, similar to the way WordPress works. And so with if you had WordPress with MailChimp, for example, when they fill out the MailChimp subscription form on your website, it puts it into your MailChimp subscription base. And that's probably what the code is. If it's an API, then there might be a little bit of programming that needs to be done to make it. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and that allows developers to create things that will work with that code. But typically for something like you're talking about, they would provide a script code that you put into a page, and it will show the fields for people to enter and submit information. Here's another question. Please repeat your answer to the copyright protection question. I was asked that question again in the last meeting, so I'm not sure if you meant that question or the one today about protecting images, copyrights, and watermarking. I'll assume it's this meeting. And in that case, what I'd said was that I would do those things. I would take, for example, the question was about putting watermarks on images. I would put those watermarks on the images in either Photoshop, or if you have Lightroom, if you're a photographer and you have something like that, you can create the watermarks on the images before you upload them. But again, nothing is perfect. I mean, I can take any image and download it, and even if it has a watermark, if you've got the Photoshop skills, you can make Photoshop just erase and right over top of that watermark pretty easily. In fact, Google is coming out with a new feature, web-based, where you can put in an image and say there's a cyclone fence in front of a group of people. You can choose to remove that cyclone fence, and it will use AI and advanced computing to fill in the color gaps so that basically you can erase the cyclone fence from the whole picture, and it would be difficult to tell that was done. Thanks for the math CAPTCHA. Yeah, you bet. I can't stand those other CAPTCHAs. They take forever. And math CAPTCHA is always really simple and easy, and it works. Then the other thing you can do is, depending on the capabilities of the site and the plugin and that sort of thing, is use what's called a honeypot. And what a honeypot does is it'll create basically like an empty field or something that it tells a bot to click on, and it's not even visible to humans. So it's in the code, and it'll mislead bots and draw them into a dead end. And that works too, and as an alternative to a CAPTCHA. So here's a question. I don't understand the student website platform. When do we build the site and request plugins? Do we need to pay for them later when we host or transfer our site to our host, or do you continue to host our site? The first part of the question, when we build the site and request plugins, do we need to pay for them later? No, all of the plugins that I have in our site are free. And so if you were later going to, you can build it out on our platform, but you're going to want to move it to your own platform eventually to get off of the multi-site. And I'll be showing people how to do that in the last class. But what you would do is with those files is let me see here. There's a step-by-step process. So you would export all of your images, all of your posts, all of your pages, and your themes. And then you, on your own WordPress site, you would do an import function that pulls all of those things in. And you would also install the plugins independently. But you can take a list of them and just install them very simply and easily and for free. So when you rebuild on your site, that's what you would do. And you would host them. You would install the plugins, but none of the plugins that I show you in this class will cost anything. So they'll be free for you. Is there a filter so only non-copyright images are shown? I assume you're talking about either WikiCommons or Google Images, and I think there's a way to do that, but I don't use them that much. So you would need to take a look there and see what you find. And I assume you're using that. If you're talking about images on your own website, then one way you could do that is by having them in posts and having posts in categories and only showing certain categories except for people who are logged in. Somebody just answered their own question about the filters. And yes, go to settings, set search parameter for Google Images. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but anyway. Now, I see someone else saying here that the screen is way behind speech. It shouldn't be. I haven't changed the screen in a while, and I have an audience view up in front of me. So just now I moved to the top of the slide, and you should see a pen moving on paper. And by the way, this is something you'll be able to do on your own site. So you can see you'll be able to make some pretty cool things here. Okay. Will plugins always be free for us? Again, it depends on which plugins you use. If you go back out here to WordPress and take a look, you'll see that there are a lot of different plugin options here. And most of them are free, but a lot of them will be free for an entry-level version. And then you have to pay more if you're doing if you want to add on more advanced features. Some of them might be $5, others might be $20 a year, and they include tech support and they include automatic updates and that sort of thing. Others are completely free and do a great job. So it will depend on the plugins that you're talking about. But anything that I show you in this class will be free. And when you put them on your own site, like say, for example, MailPoet. MailPoet's free until you get over 2,000 subscribers. And then you'd want a license that costs, I think it's $99 a year, but then you can have 500,000 subscribers for that $99 a year. Whereas MailChimp, I think, is free up to 2,000, and then they start charging you more up to say 5,000, and then more beyond 5,000. Some of my lists have more than 20,000 people on them, so we'd be paying quite a bit of money for MailChimp services if we were using that instead of MailPoet. So it's a good value, regardless of whether you pay or not. And the free version is up to 2,000 and gives you all the same features. And that's just one example. The same is true with a lot of other plugins. Okay, is there a plugin for daily alerts messages? For that, I would typically just use a calendar plugin. So if you want something that's going to give you alerts about things like your schedule or tasks or anything like that, I would put them into whatever your regular schedule is, what you use for scheduling for a calendar. And you can put a calendar into a WordPress site, like a Google Calendar. You can embed in a WordPress site pretty easily, and that is useful. But you don't, there are also standalone that would send out emails or texts or things like that you can use. So yes, there are plenty of plugins available for that type of a feature. Okay, I think we're caught up on questions, so I'll keep moving forward here and showing you some examples. Okay, and someone asked, how do you get to this dashboard? What I'm showing you now, when you say, how do you get to this dashboard, this is on the WordPress site. So I'm going to send out this link. And we talked about adding this link to the website. So I'll do that right now. All right, so right now I'm on the WordPress Plugins dashboard, if you want to call it that. And I'm going to copy the link out of here. And if we take a look back at our page here, this is where we have our student resources. This area off to the side is called a widget. And a lot of these things you'll find by just exploring, playing around. Again, do whatever you want. You can't break anything. Anything you do on your site will not in any way affect the class site. So feel free to just jump in there. Both of my kids had computers before they could talk, and I loaded them up with fun educational games and just let them go. So they've never had any kind of fear or intrepidation because they always saw it as play. And that's what you should do here. See this as play. So not work, not a task, something you're having fun with, like a game that you're trying to figure out for the first time, or a puzzle. And just go for it. Dig in and check out every single menu item. That's how I learn every new piece of software I learn. I go in and I just look through all the menu items and I try each thing and see what they do. And that's how I learn software. And that's what you can do here too when you're logged in. So I'm going to go back here to the dashboard for this site that we're looking at. And up here would be where your name of your site shows. And I'm going to go to dashboard. Now, obviously, I'm logged in already. That's why it will show. And then, because we're trying to add something to a widget, I'm going to go down here to Appearance. And this is where you'll change themes, widgets, and menus. And I'm going to go into Widgets. Widgets are the little side panel boxes. And we have a lot of space. This is a theme I created. They're part of a theme. So you might not see all these depending on which theme you choose to install on your site. On the right-hand side there, this is where I have that box that we've been looking at on the front page. And things are moving a little slowly here because of how many things I have open. I'm going to close a few of these and see if we can speed up responsiveness. Okay, so here in our right sidebar, student resources, you remember that I copied that link out of the URL panel, and I'm going to add that right here. So underneath the request a plugin or theme, I'm going to say WordPress plugin directory, and now I want to link that. So to link it, I'm just going to highlight, click the little chain link here, add the URL I want it to link to, and that's the one I copied out of the page we were looking at. Then over here, because it's not on our website, I'm going to say open it in a new window and update. And while we're here, I may as well add WordPress theme directory. And that works the same way. So let's go back out here to what we were looking at. And instead of plugins, I'm going to go right here to themes. And you can see here all the different themes. These are all free. So you only see a few here on this page. There are thousands of them. So you can look at them by most popular. And a lot of these are most popular because they come pre-installed with WordPress in different years. But you can see all of these. You can install any of these that you want, or ask me to install them for you in this case. And these are all totally free. There are commercial themes available too that cost something, but you don't need to use those. You should be able to find anything you want in here. So there's featured, popular, latest, favorites. Oh, I haven't saved any favorites because I make all my own themes. And there's a feature filter. So you can go in and say, let's say I want to do education. So show me everything related to education. And then let's see here. Apply filters. All right, so these are all education related themes. They have themes for magazines, themes for e-commerce. So if you were to see one here that you liked and wanted me to install, then that's all you need to do is send me the name and the link to that particular theme, and I'll install that for you. So now I'm going to copy that URL as well. Go back into our widget, select this text here, link it, and then open a new tab because it's not part of our site. I don't want to take people off of our site. And so if I didn't do that, it would open in that tab and then we'd lose them as a site guest. So instead we'll have it open a new tab. Now since I made some changes, I'm going to hit save here. And now if we go back out to our home site, let's see if I have a page still open. I guess not. So what I'm going to do is duplicate that tab and then just go out to look at the site and refresh. Well, and it's not, oh yeah, here we go. So there's WordPress plugin directory, WordPress theme directory. So if you click either of those, that will take you to the directories where you can use this form to request anything in either of those directories. And I'll install those on the multi-site, and that will allow you to use those. All right, so here's what's a widget. A widget is an area. And so when you're doing design, you can create widget areas where you can change content or put in plugin interfaces or anything like that. So some sites might only have one widget spot. Say this is called a right sidebar. I built in a lot of spots. Like these are all different widget areas that I built into every one of my site themes just because I like my clients to have lots of options. So here's a header logo left. This was for a particular client, different spots in the header where you can put content. So if I were to drag something in to any of these locations, let's just stick with right sidebar here. If I wanted to put in, say, a list of forums, I can drag that in right here and put it wherever I want. So I'll put it at the top just for now to just show an example. And this is, you can change this specifically to an ID for any forum that you have. And then once I've done that, I didn't make any changes to save. Let's see if it'll show a forum. I don't know if I've got anything created even. I don't remember. So there's class forum right there. So that's how I added that to a widget. Oh yeah, I did. I created one for open source software, one for cybersecurity, and one for web development. Then we might make these active at some time, and this is where I'll answer questions so that people can come and use that as a common resource for everybody. All right, so let's see. Can you recommend a plugin for managing ad for revenue? There are a lot of different options there. In our website monetization class, we'll be focused on that, both affiliate programs and using things like Google Ads, where you can host ads on your site, and as people click those, you'll make cash commission. And the same thing for job boards and affiliate programs like selling products from Amazon or Home Depot, Macy's. There are numerous affiliate programs where you can sell products from just about anybody and make a commission on all of those product sales, including ads. So there are numerous options there for ad revenue as well. Amazon, just for example, if I go back to, well, I'll just go back to our plugins page here, or our plugins. So I'm going to go down here and look at plugins. And I've got one here right now that's not activated, but I could activate it, and that's an Amazon product and a post plugin. And that's where you could set up an Amazon affiliate account, and you can put products into a post, and Amazon will track that and give you commission if anybody buys it, buys something through your post. When you use a theme, can you alter any of the design? Yes, you can. If you know how to alter design yourself, then you can get right into the code and change anything that you want. In terms of designs options, you usually want to get one that has most of what you need already. And then some of them have built-in features where you can change different colors or heading sizes or things like that. So you can start with one that's as close as you can get to what you want, and then customize it from there. So let's see. So will a free theme already have its own widget spaces lined out? Yes. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. I realize we're learning about plugins, but is there a logical process we should follow in the development and design of our site? I'm a newbie. Yes, and that's pretty much what we're doing. So in the last class, we talked about how you determine the best domain to get for your business, and then set up the hosting, install WordPress, and get a platform going. Then you want to make a list of all the features that you want. And this stuff can happen concurrently, but you think about the features you want, install all the plugins, and get them working. And you can install a theme just as a general working theme to get started, so that you have something nice to look at while you're working on it. And then get all your plugins in place and decide if you like the theme or not, and then just switch them around. So switching themes is very easy. It's even easier than plugins. And I'll show you how that works here in just a second as well. Just to get you started so that you can have something decent to look at. So I'll show you that right now. So right now I'm here on the Tech Student Development site. I'm not in as an admin, so that's what I want. And now I can go down here to Appearance and Themes. So you can see this is a theme that I designed and put in place here. But let's say I wanted to use a different theme. What I'm going to do is now, normally in your website, there'd be a button here to add a new theme. You only have options to use themes that I add for you because of the type of installation this is. This is like a WordPress.com hosted installation. But if you ask me or tell me what theme you want by using our form, then I'll install that theme and make it available here. And so I need to do that as an admin. So I'm going to go back here to the admin site. And again, you won't need to do this. You just send it to me and I'll do it for you from here. Now let's say I want to add a new theme. I can say add new. And it wants to know if I want to upload theme code that I created myself or that I've downloaded somewhere else, or I can add one from any of these features or filters or latest or whatever. So I'm just going to slide down and randomly pick something here. Let's say this, just for the heck of it. Here's Textbook University. So I'm going to say install this theme. And once I'll do this part for you, now I'm enabling it for the network. That means every site on the network, including all the sites you create, are able to use that theme now. And now I'll go back in. I'm going to jump over here to make it easier instead of back and forth. Now I'm back over here on my site. That's the one we've been looking at here. I'll go back to home so you can just see what happens. So here we are on the home page with this current theme. And what I'm going to do is go back here to Appearance and Themes. And you can see that all these themes are now available to me as options. And this is the one I just added. So I'm going to say, all right, I want to activate this one now for my site. So I'm going to click here to activate. And I could do a live preview first, but it doesn't matter for this class. And now if I go back to our site, all I did was that one click to change the theme. Now I'm going to refresh. And you can see the site looks completely different, doesn't it? Here's the title, here's the subtitle, a search bar, here's our menu, here's what the home page looks like, here's where it put all the different widgets because it's laid out differently. So there's our forums, student resources, subscribe to the newsletter. Here are our links to all those options we talked about before. And I can click from page to page. So the content is independent of the theme. And that theme I just randomly selected, but you can see that it works. This is one of the cool things about WordPress. And there are thousands of free themes to choose from. So send me any that you think you might like to work with, and I will make it so. And so that's what we just did. If I want to go back to my other theme, I can go into, again, our page. You can see this one's active right now. I could use any other theme I want here and make that active. But for our purposes, let's see where I was. I guess draft 11 here. So I'm going to say activate. And now if I go back out and refresh again, there we are, we're back. So that's how easy it is to change a theme. And so coincidentally, somebody just asked me, can you undo if you don't like a changed theme? Absolutely, that's what we just did. And so that's all you would need to do to make that work. And so I usually put in a theme that at least is friendly on the eye for me to get started with so that I have a nice working space, but I don't need to worry about what the final version is going to look like because I can change it when I'm done without having to redo the whole site. You never have to do that again. And some people I've seen be confused by needing a new theme or wanting their site to look completely different and thinking that that means they have to go hire somebody to rebuild their entire site. If you use WordPress, you really don't need to worry about that because you can see that it's very simple. I create the theme independently and then upload it and activate it. Or find a theme that already exists and has 90% of what you need, then ask your developer to just customize it for you. And that's the much more affordable way than trying to hire somebody to build an entirely new site for you. Okay, so that's all you have to do with themes. And you see where those are now. Right here, and you also now have access to them right here, the WordPress theme directory. So between now and the next class, I would suggest setting up your site and then asking me about, look at what plugins are available, because chances are if it's a common plugin that I already have it installed. But if you want one to do something that's not already there or obvious to you, then just fill out the form, send it my way, and I'll install it before our next class, assuming it doesn't come in 5 minutes before. And even if that happens, I'll do it for you anyway. Oh, and I've had a request here for a bathroom break, and I promised you one, so I apologize. Let's go ahead and do that now, and we'll go ahead and take 5. So I have 8:03 specifically on my computer. And I'm going to mute out here. We'll stay on this page, and we will resume in exactly 5 minutes. So on my computer at 8:08. And I will see you back soon. And remember, if you miss anything, we'll have video posted within a day or two. All right, I'll be right back. Thank you, everybody. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We were just on a 5-minute break. A couple people might have checked out and back in and had commented that they thought they lost me here. We are here and we are back. So let's see. It looked like I missed a question here, so I'm going to come back to that. And that is, what criteria do you use to consider to select a theme? Is it about layer, color, photos, or? And we're going to cover that in the session on themes. Which let's take a look at when that's coming up. It might be next because it would be a logical progression, and it is. So in our next session, we're going to do introduction to theme design, and it's going to be different based on what you're trying to do and the type of site that you're building. There are things even like color and shapes and things like that that affect how people react to sites. So different colors create different psychological reactions. Large text versus small text, things of that nature that can change based on the type of site that you have. So I would say select a theme that just gives you a good working space to get started. And we'll talk about the details. You can see what we're going to be doing here. So theme design and configuration of any of the plugins that we installed in session 2. Now, fortunately, I already have most of those configured from prior classes, but if anybody had any new requests, we'll review how to configure those. We'll include page and post creation, media optimization using GIMP or Photoshop. And GIMP stands for GNU Image Manipulation Program. So it's a free open source program that will allow you to customize images just like Photoshop. Not as advanced by far, but you can do the basics to optimize images before you load them to WordPress. And then we'll also have a tool inside WordPress that helps further optimize. And that's important for site load time and page ranking ultimately, because you need a quick load time or it'll hurt you in page rankings. And then we'll talk about design options for various site types. We'll look at more traditional type sites, which is really what this one is. There's nothing fancy about what we're doing there than in the current site that we're using. But you saw what we talked about when we looked at some of these theme examples that we'll be doing in theme 2, where you can get into much cooler and more advanced things. Like here's, for example, it's called a parallax view. Look at the different layers and how they move at different speeds. So this is, you want to create sites that are three-dimensional, that are very engaging. And so with something like this where you can add depth, it's like somebody can step into it. So it makes them want to go further and look deeper into the site. Now this works for, say, something like this where you've got, just one thing going on there and you want somebody to take an action, then that works. But if it's something like, now, if it's something where, say, you were presenting a lot of information, like an encyclopedia or something like that, then it's not going to work as well. Because you don't have enough content there. You'd want smaller text, more categorized. And I see a comment from someone that pages aren't changing. It could be your internet connection. And I'll give you a suggestion for that. I can see audience view on my end, so I have a window open that shows me what's showing from the GoToWebinar content. Then I'm watching to make sure I don't start talking until the page is changed for the audience. But if you have internet bandwidth challenges, then it's going to take longer to change on your screen. So what I would suggest for that for the next time is, if you're currently using the microphone on your computer, you can use the dial-in option instead for sound, and that will take your sound and put it over your phone line while you're watching just video over your internet connection. And that way you're using your bandwidth just for the video and not possibly losing it because of audio. So that should help your situation. But you get the idea here. So we can do some pretty advanced things using Slider Revolution. So we're going to talk about that. But we'll also go over, simpler designs that we've got now and cover the basics. We're also going to talk about grid layouts, branding, and it all ties together as branding. We're going to go through some third-party tools for color selection, like Cooler. And Cooler, Kuler, is a tool where you can create color schemes. So you can pick a certain color as your primary, and then it will give you different colors that are complementary or analogous, or you'll see when we get there. There's different ways you can package different colors together to make them look good. We'll also look at color contrast analyzers. So making sure that, for example, I don't know how good this is really. We've got a gray on white text, and that's in fashion. But what about people who have difficulty discerning colors if they aren't have a high enough contrast to the background? So we might want to make these darker, and we'll be able to take a tool that tells us where we score, and and what we can do to improve. And then we're going to look at different developer tools like the theme design software that I use. If you were getting into this for a business, you'd want to purchase something like that. But you can get it for less than $100 and then create all your own themes. And you can even have a business just designing themes. You can create themes and put them on a site and sell them as commercial WordPress themes. We'll also be talking about ADA compliance and what's called Section 508 compliance, COPA, digital storage of government documents and the format required for that if you want them to hold up in court if necessary. And we're going to be going through something new that has really become a bigger deal since the last time I taught the class, and that's GDPR, which is a new privacy law that started in Europe but impacts sites globally if they're visible in Europe and have European site guests. Some of the larger companies are getting sued for not being in compliance, and it can cost a lot of money. They're not coming after the small companies yet, but it's always good to apply the standards. So that's what we'll be covering in the next class. I'm looking for questions. If there are any other questions coming to mind, now would be a good time to enter them, as we'll be wrapping up soon. And before we do that, I just want to remind you out here, the SBA Training Evaluation form. So again, that's important for California Capital. I'm going to send that link out as well directly through our chat box. So you should have that link. Please download the form, complete the form, and then send that to Sophia. And again, her address is right here. And I'll also send that out through our chat box just for your convenience. So if you pop that open, that might pull open your email with her name right there for you. Okay, so looking for any more questions coming in. Other than that, we might wrap up a few minutes early. All right, so the most important things for the next class is try to create your student site, and you should get all the information you need to log in. If you have any issues, feel free to send me an email. Everybody should be on the newsletter site, and I have that set up to, I have one set up to automatically send once a week for any new content that I might add to the blog. So feel free to either come to the blog or just wait for the newsletter to come in. But we should be in good shape there. And let's see, I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. So we'll go ahead and wrap up a few minutes early. And I see a message here. I registered a site but not sure about my password. You should have received a login link or something to reset your password. But I have your name here, and I'll take a look and see to make sure that that got registered. Then I'll also walk through the process myself to see how it responds and make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to. As an admin, it's doing what I expect it to, but I need to come in once in a while and check it from a user side and see what's going on and make sure it's a smooth user experience. But let me know if you have any issues. Other than that, again, log in, have fun, explore the plugin directory, explore the theme directory, and just send in the form and let me know what you'd like to install. I'll take care of it and let you know that it's there. And from that point forward, you can start using it in your specific class site. Last question. How did you manage to retire at 35? Boy, that's a long, strange trip, I'll tell you. It was, I started a firm in Chicago that was an executive recruiting firm. And I've started 4 companies so far, and I'm in the middle of 2 startups right now. But the other companies I've started from scratch with no experience, no background, no money, nothing. And but we became the largest in the country within a particular industry niche within 2 years. Yeah, I had people working in 26 cities, everybody working from home, everybody is independent contractors, and I was making a pretty healthy 7-figure income pretty quickly with no business expenses. So I spent one summer, I spent 9 weeks on a BMW motorcycle, just traveling around the country, going to music festivals and national parks and taking pictures. And I'd make about $100,000 a week while I was on the road, doing absolutely nothing. Well, what I'd do is I'd pull off the road and get a hotel at night, and I'd respond to email. In the morning, I'd stay in my room for an hour or two and make a couple phone calls or respond to email, and then I'd pull over again for lunch and respond to phone calls and email. So I'd be happy to share more of my business strategies and things that you can do to grow your business if I understand more about it. That's what I'm here for. If I ever sound like I'm bragging, I apologize up front. I'm not. I'm a very humble person. I'm not retired anymore. I'm working. And I was retired at 35, but when Lehman Brothers went under and the real estate went under and all of that, I'm no longer totally funded for the lifestyle I'd like for the rest of my life. So I'm back to working again, but that's all good because I love what I do. But I'm happy to share strategies for growing businesses. I've been quite lucky, and the things that I've done have worked pretty consistently. And I'm here to share those things with you, not brag about my accomplishments, but more share my strategies for what led to those accomplishments. And I'm happy to help you all any way that I can. All right, and then since then I started a web development company, and then the last 2 companies are involved in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and we're jumping into blockchain, but I'm only applying it to environmental interests, human rights, and human health, and those types of services. Anything that has a public benefit mission makes the world a little better, makes society a little better, makes our community a little better. I'm chasing that more than dollars these days, but they can go hand in hand. So they're not mutually exclusive. The general motto is to do right by doing good, or do good by doing right, however you want to put it. Do well by doing good. In my case, when I grew up, I was not born into anything successful. I pretty much pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and but I think anybody can if they have the right opportunities and people to help them get there. And so I'm happy to help all of you do that as well. Okay, looking for any last questions coming in. All right, well thank you for the kind comment that just came in. I appreciate that. But we're all in this together. I think it's possible for everybody to win. It's not like we have to compete together. If we can all work together and really work on things that are positive for the world and positive for people, then there's plenty of resources for everybody. We just have to kind of share the wealth, so to speak, and spread it across the different economic stratospheres we have in our current society. So I've been a 1%er and I've been a 99%er, so, many times back and forth, really. And I'm the same person, regardless of how successful I've been. I'm sure you're all wonderful people too, and I'm happy to help you accomplish whatever goals you might have. Here's a question. Do we survey every time or just the first time? After each class. And someone asked, what training course number do we use on the evaluation form? You don't need to fill in any training course number. Just make sure that when you send them into Sophia, just mention that it's from the web dev class or the webinar series more specifically. Okay, so I'll wait for another minute or two just to see if anybody else has any final questions. All right, well, I'm not seeing any more come in, but we'll be back here same time next week. Oh, here's a question. Is SSL critical? I think you meant to say critical. That looks like there's a typo there. And I would say yes, for several reasons. SSL, for those of you who aren't familiar, stands for Secure Socket Layer, though it's really not that anymore. SSL was found to have a critical vulnerability, so it's now TLS or TLS, yeah, which is the next layer of security, but it's still referred to as SSL. And SSL is important for search ranking. Google now pays attention to that. It's really important for overall security so that you don't subject users to, say, man-in-the-middle attacks or something like that. And whenever you have a website, people are going to trust it more. So you'll notice up here in Chrome, it says secure and shows a green lock on our site, HTTPS. However, it used to be you had to pay a good bit of money for an SSL every year. There are now multiple free ways to get an SSL, and I'll be showing you both of those in a later class when we talk more about security. One happens on the server where you can use something called Auto SSL. You can also use something put out by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or was helped launch by them, called SSL Anywhere. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of their program. Let's Encrypt, that's what it was. But the one that I really like is provided through Cloudflare, and that's what we're using here as well. Cloudflare is a hosting platform, or not a hosting platform, it's a CDN that creates a layer of your site between the server and the user. So it'll help prevent DDoS attacks, which is distributed denial of service attacks. It helps your site stay online even if your server has an issue. And it also obscures your IP to make it harder for hackers to hit you. And it's completely free for the level that you would need for the free SSL. Someone just asked again, what is the class number? Just leave that blank. So there's no reason to, you don't need to fill in the class number. Just when you email the completed form to Sophia, let her know that it was the web development webinar series. Okay, it's 8:26. Is Cloudflare a plugin? Cloudflare is a platform. You're seeing it on my screen now, and I'll send you a link just to take a look at that for anybody who's interested. But so you set the site up to work with Cloudflare, and I've already done that with our class site. And then there are also plugins. So the question was, is Cloudflare a plugin? Not specifically. Cloudflare is a DNS cloud system. And what it does is it's like a CDN, not DNS. I'm sorry, which is a cloud distribution network. And it'll allow sites to load from the nearest node that the user is coming from. So it helps sites load faster. It basically stores a version of your website in the cloud. But it does have plugins as well. So after you add a site to Cloudflare, then you can put a Cloudflare plugin into the website, and that will allow you to see and manage Cloudflare settings from within WordPress. So that's how Cloudflare works. It's really cool. Any good developers I know use it on almost all their sites, and as do I. I could show you some really cool examples of how it's kept sites online, especially some of my busier magazine sites that might get 50 or 100,000 visitors a day. And Cloudflare help keeps it online because most people are seeing the cached version of the site. Not to mention that free SSL, always a good deal. Okay, I'll wait another minute, see if another question trickles in. Other than that, we will call it a wrap and have fun out there. It can really be a blast. Like I said, I started doing all of this for free, and I feel like I'm still retired because I literally would be doing the exact same thing I'm doing now. I just wouldn't be charging any clients if I were still financially retired. And they say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So as long as you can keep the bills paid, keep the lights on, and enjoy what you're doing every day, and know that your work is creating or contributing to a greater purpose, so to speak, or to accomplish something that's aligned with your values, then you're going to enjoy your life, and you'll probably be pretty successful because your passion will be in your work. And that's what makes the difference. When you're out there working for somebody else, it's working for a paycheck, and sometimes that's fine. It's very pragmatic and utilitarian. But if you have your own dream or your own vision of things you want to accomplish, and especially if they're about accomplishing things that you feel are of high value to the world and to the community, then you can do that every day and make a living doing it. Then it feels pretty darn good. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Feel free to contact me between classes, and we'll keep on moving forward. And hopefully, you all have some really amazing websites when we're done. We currently have 57 student sites set up on the platform. And of course, you only see your own, but it's working pretty well for people from the feedback that I'm getting. So hopefully, you'll have a lot of fun with it and learn while you're doing it and come out with a great product that can help your business and help you achieve your goals. So thank you, everybody, and we'll catch you again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care.